and what their interest is. If we've got people with a lot of musical experience, we might go kind of deeper into theory. If we've got a lot of people who are like, I know nothing, then we can step back a little bit. And I have like a whole slew of psalteries. We're going over instruments that look kind of like this, or this. This one's got marking for later in the class, or this. Then only with strings. This one's getting restrung. Anyway, I also, Catriona's here with her harp. I told her that some of the things we talked about would also apply to a harp. These are commonly called lap harps, if you want to search for one. So a lot of the techniques, at least the techniques I'm going to go over in this class, are going to cross over to harp pretty well. But anyway, yeah, if people don't mind telling me a little bit about your background, why you decided to take the class, if you don't mind. I guess we can start with Brigitte. She's already shown us her really cool psaltery.
I am Brigitte Mariglis. I got my GOA in dulcimer and psaltery research about a couple years ago. And if you want any resources, link me up. I've got so much that I'm just sitting on. And
cool. We need to connect.
Oh, absolutely. I'm no Vince Conaway, but I play dulcimer.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's Vince. Let's see. I usually teach at Penzic, and I hail from Ethelmark, so I'm around like Niagara Falls, New York.
Okay.
So I mainly play dulcimer. I've got 2 dulcimers, both by Dusty Strings. The psaltery that I'll reach over again is from Baltic Psalteries. I can't lift with my shoulder yet. They shipped from Moscow, so it takes about 6 weeks. This one was about 300. So they're very reasonable price, and they go more into the lyre psalteries as well. And other than that, I just got a guzheng, also known as a koto, which is another chordophone, Asian. So right now, my concentration is more Asian music right now.
Okay.
So glad to be.
Okay, so I guess I have one specific question for each person who answers. Do you read music?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And I guess, Catriona, you're the next on my screen. I know more about your background because we're buddies.
Yeah, let me get unmuted. I'm also from Ansteorra, same as Elizabeth. Catriona of Castle Doon. And I am brand new to a harp. However, Elizabeth and I sing together, and I do play piano some, so I read music. And I'm looking forward to growing and learning.
Okay, great. Oh, it looks like we've got another Baltic Psaltery. I've got Ursula and Nikita next.
Hello. Hi there. So I've been playing a harp for quite a long time. I read treble clef very well and bass clef slowly. Very slowly. My harp this is actually one that my partner built. This is I don't usually play on this one. I usually play on my larger one. It's just a little awkward to bring over right now.
Sure.
Of course. But I usually take the big one to pretty much every SCA event that we go to and play my harp music. It's a great way to meet people. Just a wonderful playing your instrument is just a wonderful way to meet people, if you're a little shy or socially awkward. It's also, it just adds a really lovely, sort of air to an event, as well as to a feast. And this year we built a Finnish kantele. So it's got the Finnish tuning. It's an 11-string kantele. 10 string. We're probably next we're going to build an 11-string one, and we have three Hog Nose Psalteries planned to build in the workshop, because we also build instruments.
Yeah.
All
right, wonderful.
I am just having a little bit of trouble finding, I find a lot of Finnish music for the kantele. So that's the only problem I'm having. It's just starting out.
Okay. And I'm more familiar, actually, since we've had several what I would call Baltic psalteries kind of show up. I was really focusing this class on Western psaltery because I thought that would be more what people do. But I also have a Baltic psaltery.
That's great. No, the Western psaltery, that'd be great. That'll translate over well.
Our hog nose, right?
We'll kind of talk about the differences, and maybe I'll focus on some of the differences. I'm actually taking this instrument was made by a gentleman in Belarus, and I'm actually taking lessons from him now. So I'm getting a little more formal training on this, while the other psalteries are more self-taught. But I guess we'll go more into me once we've gone around the circle. I think Katrina, are you just here as a host?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I guess we'll pass you, and Bia, I know your background, but if you want to say a little bit about yourself, let's try to keep it kind of brief because I don't want the whole class to be introductions.
Sorry, I had you on the big screen, so I had to find my button there.
Okay.
So I mostly play saz and kobza and the other guitar-like items, but I do have a hammered dulcimer. I do play a little harp, and I do have a small lap harp that is not in
Looks like this
tune.
one.
Yes, it is almost exactly like this one, but I put
Yeah.
these strings on, they're not tuned in.
All right. Antonia, and I know you read music, but that's one of the main questions. I guess my two questions are, do you read music, and what are you hoping to get out of the class? And Antonia, sorry. All right. And we had a question. Oh, Antonia's mic doesn't work. Yeah, bowed psalteries are not going to be included in this class. They are actually a modern instrument. And yeah, name confusion. I apologize for that if someone came for bowed psaltery specifically. Antonia reads music and just got a lap harp last week. So wonderful. All right, well, this should be the perfect intro for you. And next on my list is Kit Burns.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I'm not very expert at period music. I'm actually primarily a fiber works. I do null binding, but I do play instruments, just more on the modern side, and I have been known to read music, but I keep on forgetting.
Okay,
so I'll be able to follow.
Sure, okay, and that's fine. And this class will be perfect because we'll kind of talk more about how can you make arrangements that sound more medieval as opposed to modern. If we get that far, we'll see how far we go. There might be a follow-up class at some point. How about Edith? We've got a message. Edith, my husband purchased an instrument secondhand. Oh, correct term. Piano and flute. I can read music, but a psaltery. We know nothing. Don't even know how to tune it. Okay. Great. If you've got a piano background, this is going to be wonderful because that's how I started out. Gerhard, I apologize.
Hello, I'm Gerhard. I do not read music. I enjoy singing badly around campfires. And this instrument, the lap harp, looks perfect to drink and sing around a campfire.
It is perfect for that. In fact, I think it's, I don't know if you ever do storytelling, but it also can be a really good accompaniment for kind of atmospheric, adding to storytelling and also singing. And it's actually very easy to play, even if you don't read music.
That sounds perfect.
So Elizabeth.
Hello, I have the Sitara mini harpa. Got it for $8.99 at a thrift shop.
Yes.
I'm modernly piano, flute, several other things.
Okay, and I assume read music as well?
Yes, fluently. Would
Okay,
really
great.
like to know how to play more than one note at a time and have it sound good.
Perfect. All right. And the last two people I have here I know very well. Rhiannon, if you want to say kind of what you expect to get out of the class. I know you can read music. Or if you just wanted to see my lovely face.
Well, I'm just interested a bit more, probably with the idea that, a newcomer to music might be interested in the instrument, and I might get them to, I might have to teach it to them. So,
Okay. It
normally,
should be very easy for you because I know you're a harpist. So there's a lot of crossover. And Robin Carrot.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. That's going to be a common question because I got a new mic that I don't know how to work.
Okay.
I'm Robin Carrot. I can read music. If I can't, I've been doing something wrong for the last 25 years. I am currently the music deputy for the Kingdom of Ansteorra and the secretary for the Ansteorran Music Collective. I am here to learn more about medieval and the Psalter. And that was my question at first about the bowed Psalter. Somebody directed that to me and I was like, I don't know. Let me go to this class and find out.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate misconception. If you haven't seen a bowed psaltery, it's usually a long triangular shaped instrument. Brigitte has one. Thank you, Brigitte. That is exactly it. And in fact, it's a little unfortunate because these get sold at Ren fairs and places and are sometimes advertised as medieval instruments, but they were invented in the 20th century. Now, if you show up to an event with one, have fun. It has a sound that definitely fits with the music. But I would, if you really want to like learn a period instrument and spend a lot of money and effort on one, I would recommend going a different route for an actual period instrument or something that's a little closer. And there are options. Well, the Plucked Psaltery, oh gosh, I've got so many around here. I don't even know which one to grab. But, you can get a little psaltery new, probably around $50 for one like this. And you can find them used lots of places. eBay, thrift stores. The big secret place to get instruments is shopgoodwill.com. Remember that website if you want to buy instruments. It might be a bad thing to tell people because you can end up losing a lot of money there. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm an addict. Some people collect rehab puppies. I rehab instruments.
Yeah. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 psalteries in the room right now, plus a hammer dulcimer. Kind of have a problem, but that's okay. Anyway, so let's go into, I've got some notes. Let me make sure I don't miss anything I wanted to. Well, like I was saying, you can buy these modernly as lap harps, but they are a very period instrument. It sounds like most people in the class are already familiar with them. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes. One of the very common shapes you see in the Middle Ages is what's called a hog nose shape, where it's got these curved sides. That is, it's just, they think, or a pig's snout is the same thing. Somebody thinks it looks like a pig's nose. So this one is from a music maker's kit. It was also a shopgoodwill.com find and has been rebuilt several times because it keeps falling apart because the person who built it was not a luthier, and the person who bought it and has rebuilt it, me, is not a luthier. So, but it has a lovely sound when it's not falling apart. So the instruments are available and reasonably affordable to get an entry level, quality instrument. If you're looking to buy secondhand, it seems like a lot of you are familiar with instruments, but just check to make sure the sound, no cracks in the soundboards, no separation around the edges. If you buy secondhand, you'll also need a tuning wrench. You can buy some for these little pins. They're not a standard wrench size. You'd have to order like, if you look Autoharp tuning wrench, that's what you'll want for these. Not a piano, that's going to be a different size. But Autoharp or a hammered dulcimer, that's what you want. So yeah, to start playing, what you need, instrument. We've gone a little bit over that. And you'll need a tuning wrench and you'll need a tuner of some kind. You can download apps on your phone for free. And you can use a clip tuner, but a lot of times they're actually kind of hard to put on the instrument because like there's nowhere to put it. So I kind of like put it on the tuning pins and move it around, and but they are handy for a lot of things. So this actually is my main tuner that I use. And please, I do want to mention, stop me, ask questions at any point. I am 100% open to that. Optional things are a case. It'll keep your instrument, you know, clean and extend the life of your strings. We're in the SCA. There's lots of people who sew. You can maybe get someone to make you a cool bag or make one yourself. Or, I mean, a lot of the instruments you can buy little cases for as well. So we've had a question on tuning, and we have a lot of different styles of psalteries in the room. So when I taught this class, I kind of assumed I was thinking of it from the perspective of these little psalteries, which are probably the most common. And then people show up with cool Baltic psalteries, and I'm not entirely sure how your instrument should be tuned. So I'm going to talk about this instrument specifically. I apologize if it doesn't 100% apply to your instrument. Most of these little psalteries you can get have 15 strings, and they're usually tuned with the lowest note being G up to G 2 octaves higher. Oh, let me get my sound setting correct. Can you hear this? Great. And it's actually what we would call a diatonic scale. If you're not familiar with what that means, it is basically, if you look at a piano, you know, there's white keys and black keys. This is all the white keys. How I tune, you can tune it in different keys. What does that mean? Certain notes can be sharp or flattened, but you got to pick your scale. I personally, when I play my music, and I don't know if you guys saw, I have a YouTube channel where I have several videos I've done, both medieval and modern pieces on these instruments. But I do a diatonic scale in the key of C, but it's from G to G. If your instrument came with a tuning sheet, it may tell you to make some sharps and flats, or probably it may tell you to sharp your Fs and maybe your Cs. For the sake of this class and what I'm talking about, it's all the white notes on the piano, essentially. I think that works. A lot of the music we play, if you want to play with a group, this is kind of Rhiannon's joke. I play with her in a group that we always play in the key of C. So a lot of the music you'll find in the SCA will be C friendly. And I kind of like how that fits on the instrument because it gives you a little room at the bottom to add some harmonies, and then enough room to kind of fit a decent, a typical medieval melody will fit on this instrument and give you a little room for drones. So that's how you tune, and you can buy, like I said, tuning wrenches. I've got a little Autoharp tuning wrench. I also have a much nicer one for this. This is actually for my hammer dulcimer, but it fits the same. I'm not going to tell you a specific one to get, just Google search, and depending on your price range, like, I think these are more expensive. You might be able to buy a secondhand psaltery for the same price as a new one of these. So I'll leave that up to you. Oh, another thing, a lot of these instruments to get started, I think I have some here. They come with little song sheets that slide under your strings, and you can kind of follow the notes and play a song. You slide it under there and just pluck along. That can be kind of fun and easy way to, you know, get a song with basically no effort. But we want to go beyond this, right? We want to learn how to do something a little more interesting than turn yourself into basically a little music box that or a jukebox, right? If you've got the little card, you can play the song. We're gonna try to go beyond that. That's where was I going with that? How do you hold it? Okay, so we've got the stuff we need. We need an instrument, tuner, tuning wrench. How do you hold this thing? I keep on holding it to the screen like this. If you play, there are options. Most of the paintings I see, there's a question, do you hold it this way or do you hold it this way? Eastern European psalteries like the cantilas or the gouselies or the canels, koklas, those are usually held, if you're doing an Eastern European, Russian, Finnish, it's going to be this direction. And in fact, I'm going to put my camera down a little bit. Usually they'll be balanced against your chest and you'll play like this. And they actually do a strumming technique. More than a plucking. That's actually not the style we're going over. But, so that's a more, you can play either way you want on your instrument. If you play like the cantala, I'd probably recommend playing it this way, or actually the cantala I think normally rests on your lap more than against your chest. I guess you can do both. I'll leave that up to your discretion. When I'm playing these psalteries, I usually play them this way. Just lay them on your heart, on your lap. I think this is definitely the best beginner position and maybe where you want to stop. You can also put it up like this. Maybe that gets you a little more projection towards the audience. You do want to kind of try to keep your wrists straight. We'll talk about plucking in a moment, but you can do either one. Again, I recommend starting just with it right on your lap. You can see what you're doing, and there's artwork from our period that seems to indicate that this was played in this way. Now, one of the more interesting positions you see in a lot of artwork is people playing with it kind of balanced on their wrists, and this is a lot of people think this is a not realistic. Yeah, and I usually play my Hog Nose Psaltery because the curves fit my arms really well. And that's doable. It is more awkward. If I'm playing a complex modern song, I'm actually going to just put it back in my lap. But it's kind of cool. You get a lot of good sound and you don't need a chair. You can stand and walk around and play. So my big comment about this is pay attention to your body, because your hands will start getting in kind of awkward positions depending where you're on the instrument. And if you have your wrist kind of cranked weird for too long, you could hurt your wrist. So just if your joints, if you start hurting while you're playing your instrument, you're doing it wrong. So please adjust. That is your body telling you you're doing it wrong. It's not, you don't need to work through the pain when you're playing an instrument. So, And sometimes we forget that, I'm just playing a musical instrument. I mean, I'm not doing a contact sport or anything, but you can actually still hurt yourself pretty easily if you're doing the wrong thing over and over again. So that's holding. Like I said, for the sake of this class, I'm going to do the flat on the lap primarily. Now, let me see let's talk about picks a little bit. Picks are, I didn't really talk about my background. I apologize. I meant to do that. I have self-taught in these types of psalteries. I have recently started taking the Goosley lessons, which again is a different style of playing. As a kid, I played piano pretty seriously, but mundanely, I'm an engineer. I do not have a musical education. This is all me being self-taught. So if you're more of a musical person and I say something dumb, you can definitely come in and correct me. I will not be offended. And I'm going over my notes. Picks. We're going to talk about picks. In my videos, I have a decently popular YouTube channel, which is a little weird to me. But a lot of the videos I use finger picks. And because, especially with these little psalteries, they don't make a lot of sound, and it's kind of nice to get a little extra volume. What I use are these, they're called Alaska picks, and I'll use those, and they actually go on your finger this way. And if you've ever played like banjo or something like that, this is a more typical banjo pick, and it goes on your finger this way, but it makes a horrible amount of string noise. So I don't think these are good with this instrument because they're so small. They're very unforgiving. But these little picks kind of work better. However, I'm actually really not a fan of finger picks, even though they're popular on my channel. I think that you can get a decent amount of volume if you're really just pluck. How do you spell Alaska picks? Exactly the way you did minus the K. So, and on my thumbs, actually I use a different kind of pick. I use actually what you would use for banjo or guitar. I use a thumb pick, and if you notice, it actually like comes out at the side instead of the tip. This is helpful in illustrating how you want to properly pluck the strings with your thumb. You're not going to try to pluck from the tip of your finger. It's going to put you at a weird angle. You're going to pluck from the side of your finger, right here. So let me see. I'm going to change the camera very soon. So a lot of people, there is a lot of artwork of people playing with plectrum, maybe one per I guess the C is missing, not the K on an Alaska pick. I apologize. But you'll see people playing with two sorts of short plectrum of some kind. You'll even see people using feathers. That's very popular. I unfortunately don't have any feathers here, but you'll use a feather to pluck your strings. So I have a flat pick, but yeah, you can just use a flat pick, use one in each hand, and pick out melodies that way. I personally like to do a little more complex arrangements and like to have all my fingers available to play. So I think with proper picking, you maybe can get away from having to use picks, but I'll leave that up to you. It's certainly not required. And that's something I've kind of changed my opinion about over time. Oh, excuse me. I'm a bad teacher, my phone rang. Okay, I'm going to change the camera angle now. Hopefully we will be able to see close up of the instrument, so moment of rearranging. I guess I should ask if there's any other questions. Oh wait, before I move on.
There was a question in the comments about string gauges.
Oh, wonderful question. So there's maybe a long answer and a short answer. The short answer is for the type of instrument that I have, you probably want to use 0.016, so 16s. That is what was recommended for my TK O'Brien Psaltery, which you're looking at right now. That's not actually what I want you to look at. I want you to look at my piano. Okay. I thought I had this all set up so it would be angled right, and it's giving me a reverse view, so it's so weird. Okay.
It is the right way for us. So
can you see my keyboard?
yes, it is the right direction.
Cool. All right. Again, this is such a weird view for me. My big psaltery is tuned exactly like my small psaltery, only it's an octave higher and it's bigger. Or sorry, it's an octave lower and it's bigger. So I'm going to use this for my close-up views, and I've also put the, I've marked the notes. We'll talk about that too. I have opinions about that. Okay, but I wanted to compare to a piano because that's an instrument that a lot of people are very familiar with. Can you see that all right from your point of view? I'm getting nods. Good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and you may want to, make it, make me the pinned large view for this, just so you can see a little closer. So I've written all over. This is one of those little flat keyboards. So I guess first, can you hear it all right?
Yes, but it is a little low.
Here, hold on, just a moment. Corey, will you please stop playing music? I'm teaching a class. I apologize. My husband was playing ukulele, and it was, I don't know if you could hear it, but it was distracting to me. Okay, I think that's louder. Okay, so this is your range of your instrument. I put an X. X is like, we are not going beyond this point. So it's G to G, and like I said, I have tuned my instrument, so it's just all the white notes. You don't have to keep it that way. You can put it in another key. That's totally a fair option. But for the sake of this class, I'm just keeping it there. You can notice that I put some red and blue dots. This is following harp conventions. If you ever look at a harp, they have they have some red and blue strings. The red strings are the C's and the blue strings are the F. Oh, there's something on there that made it look like an E. I got all confused. Okay. That's much better. So the cool thing about marking these notes on a harp is that the note below your marked string on both cases is what we call a half step. So if you have a scale, it's constructed of whole and half steps. Frequency-wise, every note is the same frequency difference. We're not going to get into temperaments for this point. At this point, we're going to just say that and not go into the heady, deep stuff that we could if we wanted to. But the point is, every musical scale is going to have this combination of whole and half steps. The scales we're most familiar with are our major scales, which is a whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half steps. And then if we want to do a minor scale, we could start on A if we want to keep all of our white notes. whole, half, whole, half, whole. Is this making sense? It's not. I know a lot of you do have a musical background, so yeah, if you do, I guess, Katrina, are you keeping track of questions? I can't see everybody with my screen large, so.
Yes, ma'am. I've got you.
Great, thank you. Next, where was I going with this? Oh, so actually on my psalteries, the salt, it's like 15 strings is a lot of strings to kind of keep track of when there's like no visual differentiation, except for maybe a sound hole. So I kind of cheated, and you can see a little bit here. I've actually put little bitty dots that are blue and red to mark my C's and F's. I'll leave it up to you whether you want to do that or not. I've actually since then tried to train myself to move away from any markings at all. So on my larger psaltery, I don't have any markings generally. Of course, I have a lot of markings right now. So I've got the note names here, and I've got number names. You can learn your music either through musical notation, which most of you know how to read. And musical notation is not that bad. I think we do people a disservice when we talk about reading music, sort of like it's a different language, but it's really just a graph. And it's not terrible, and you can learn it. And actually, the psaltery is a really fantastic instrument to learn how to read music on. That being said, so I wanted to give you an idea. Okay, this is what the layout is. And a piano goes from low to high. On your psaltery, your lower strings are your longer strings, your higher strings are your short strings, basic physics. So really, kind of comparatively, if we wanted to put this in the same direction, our psaltery would be this direction. So instead of your hands going left to right, they're going up and down. Anyway, we don't need to belabor this probably any longer, but I just wanted to give you a visual. What does your instrument look like? What is the range? So if we don't have any more questions at the moment, I'm going to go on to playing songs. Plucking was the one thing that I skipped, and I need to go back to that. And then we'll talk about how to learn a tune. Do we have any questions at the moment? I don't see anything. Okay. So let's throw this guy down here. Turn off the keyboard so I don't actually play notes on it. Do I have... I think... Does that look good, or is it all washed out?
We can see it.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Okay. How to pluck. Okay. And somebody had questions on this and he didn't show up for the class. We were talking about it on Facebook. Okay, that's okay. Plucking comes very naturally for me, so and I know it doesn't for other people, so if you have more questions, please do stop me. So again, you're not absolutely like playing with the absolute tips of your fingers. Very true with your thumbs. Like I said already, you want to play with the edge of your thumb. You see how I'm doing, not the tip. Well, you can't even see because I can't get my hand that way, but you're playing with the side of your thumb. If you've ever met a guitar player who plays classical guitar and, you know, they play with fingernails, like they'll grow their thumbnail like really funky weird out to the side. They'll have it extra long on the side because they're plucking with the side of their fingernail. For your other fingers, and I take this from harp, I usually only use my index, middle, and ring fingers. I don't usually use my pinky. It's a little weaker and kind of awkward. However, I have seen Middle Eastern qanun players use their pinkies. So I'm not going to say like don't use your pinkies. I don't think harp players typically use your pinkies. Maybe some of the experienced harp players can can say that differently, but that's kind of where I came from. Like, okay, harp players don't use pinkies. I'm not going to use my pinkies. But it's certainly allowed if you feel like you can do it accurately. So for your fingers, again, you'll be more on the tips, but maybe a little bit to the side. And definitely if you're holding, okay, yeah, we don't use pinkies for harp playing. Definitely, if you're holding it against your chest, like I was showing you, you will be playing with the sides of all of your fingers, which is part of the reason it's a little more awkward and more difficult to play fast, complicated things. So it's much more natural to just kind of have fairly straight wrists and does anyone have any questions about plucking? Because I know that might be kind of something that's difficult and different if you haven't played an instrument like this before. So yeah, I mean, I'm playing a modern song, sorry. So, yeah, and I think also don't be nervous around your instrument. Really kind of dig in there and pull on those strings. Kind of hook the flesh of your finger on there. Another option is grow your fingernails out and play with your fingernails. I also play piano, so I don't like long fingernails, but that is a legitimate option. A lot of probably modern day, one of the strongest plucked psaltery traditions is in the Baltic countries. And I've watched a lot of videos of them playing, and they tend to play with the soft pads of their fingers if they're not doing a block and strum with a pick. So that should be the basics of how to pluck a song. The nice thing about having a diatonic instrument that does not have sharps or flats is you can kind of just noodle. And you're not going to play like a wrong note that sounds really bad. This is why it's good for, say, story accompaniment or, well, song accompaniment. You do have to play something that sounds good with your song, right? So it's easy to kind of noodle and come up with something. Ways to learn tunes. You can use music. Unfortunately, I did not come out with a handout or with a song. You can learn, again, reading music. Okay, I'm going to play a simple song called Laudimus Virginum. I learned that from music. You can learn it from ear. It's very easy to figure out. You know, just kind of mess around till you find the part of the instrument where it works. You know, you might be like, I don't know what string this starts on. Oh, no, that's not right. That actually does work, which is a little odd in this case, but you happen to skip the note that needs to be sharpened in a different key. So I guess I don't have a whole lot of tips on how to learn a tune other than, you know, you can play by ear. You can learn how to read music, which is beyond the scope of this class. And I think, did I have, you might be able to come up with some sort of number notation, or you can learn from song sheets, as we showed you earlier, the slide under the strings. I'm not a super big fan of putting something like this as a cheat guide because it can very easily become a crutch and you want to move beyond this. I personally the dots are kind of like a middle ground that'll show you that'll give you some sort of orientation without just having like this huge thing there. So you don't want to play with this ultimately. And you want to have a better, more organic feel for the instrument. So for the sake of this class, I'm leaving my notes under the strings, but it's kind of a crutch that I don't want you to get too attached to. Okay, we've got about 14 minutes left. I'm going to very briefly go over a few ways you can add harmony to a melody. And I'm going to use actually an Epiphany song. Sorry, it's a little out of season, called Orientus Partibus. And Catriona is laughing because it's kind of a funny song. It's a song about the donkey that carried Mary to Bethlehem. And I guess out to Egypt as well. So the tune goes. Simple melody, typical of medieval. Now, in medieval harmonies, octaves and fifths are your friends. Not so much thirds. So when we think of a chord, oh, that sounds great. In the medieval ear, it's kind of like, that third's a little iffy. So if you want to make music that sounds medieval, cut out the third. I'm going to do a little bit of a caveat that they're sort of like, what did people actually do and what do early music people think sounds medieval? So we're going kind of with the second one because we don't know the first one. So if you do these certain tips, you'll get a song that sounds passably medieval and won't get too many frowns, or shouldn't get too many frowns from the early music community. If you're around a lot of snobs. So drop the third, or we were doing G. Our song, Orientus Partibus, starts on G. Oop, that's not a G. And an octave is going to be the same note, frequency divided in half. I apologize for the gentleman who said he doesn't really know music, so we're going to go a little heavy into the music side. The maybe theory. So an octave is going to be, the interval is going to be an eighth. So it's really easy to tell intervals on a psaltery because you take the string. I want an eighth below this note. So I count this note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they're both labeled as G. Yay! That's an octave. Octave means 8. Okay. The other interval I said is a fifth. Okay, well let's do, okay. I'm saying too many things at once. I apologize. So, Orientus Partibus. It starts on G, it ends on G. That is what we would call the tonic, or the fundamental. It's kind of the base of the song. We're focused on this note. So in a lot of medieval music, there will be a drone on the tonic. So take an octave lower drone. 8 notes down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. G, G. Okay, congratulations! You've added a very authentic medieval harmony to your song. Just droning on the octave. You're good. In this case, I want to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to not only drone on the octave, I'm going to jump a fifth up, which is a very acceptable harmony. So a fifth up from my tonic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That puts me on D. So I've got D and G. Great, more exciting. Now let's make it even more exciting. Instead of just doing chords, let's do an alternating between the octave and the fifth. All right, that's another arrangement. Something else you can do is kind of, I may mess this one up, but you can add kind of a rhythm with your drone. So that's another option. If you want to add something even different, part of the challenge of this instrument is it's not a huge range. It's only 2 octaves. So the more creative you get with your harmonies, and I've intentionally picked a tune that's on the upper end of the instrument. You may have a tune that falls lower, and then your harmonies start crossing with your melody. So we're going to do another harmony technique where we're going to do a little arpeggio or broken chord. We're going to do the G, the fifth, and then we're going to do the octave G. I like doing this a lot, and depending on the meter of your tune, you may have to adjust what pattern you use for this. But in something else I'll note, and I'm going to come back to this, is so we've got the octave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have the fifth above the octave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to that next octave note that is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a fourth. Fourths are also typically okay in medieval early music. Some people say, don't overdo the fourths. I tend to do fourths a lot, and we'll do a tune. I'll do an example on a tune that is lower in the melody, and you'll see why I do fourths more often. But to go back to what we were doing, okay, let's add kind of a little repetitive pattern. You may have noticed there was a point where both of my fingers to the pattern were going to play the same string, and you got to decide, well, am I going to do right hand or left hand? Sometimes it's easier to do left hand because you just keep that pattern going. And every once in a while, you'll get a note that kind of clashes. Like I had these 2 notes hit, and it's like, ooh, that's not quite right. But you have to realize a lot of medieval instruments are really drone focused. Like the obvious one is a bagpipes. You're going to squeeze that thing and your drones are going to play their drone notes, and whatever the melody notes are, it's just going to have to deal with it. So there's a little more tolerance for every once in a while there being kind of a weird harmony, I feel like. Personal opinion, maybe someone in the early music community might disagree with me. And this particular tune, we're not changing our kind of harmony part. There are tunes where you may want to change that. An example. So, I'm not going to go into the details of why I changed, but doing that 3-note pattern again with the left hand, but now dropping it down lower. That's another little medieval tune. We've got 5 minutes left. I'm not going to go over exactly, but you want to keep those fifths and those octaves. Now to do a, I'm going to do a little Dorian mode example. What song do I want to do? A lot of songs are in Dorian mode, which means you're going to start with D. Your lowest note's going to be D, or your focus note, maybe dropping to a C every once in a while. This gives you a problem, because if you want to do your octave below drone, you don't have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is not there. So I do, instead of droning the octave, I drone the fifth above the octave, which is actually the A in this case, which ends up being the fourth, 2, 3, 4, below your tonic. Hope this makes sense. So so that can be a drone. But I kind of want to have something more interesting. I liked my chords. Well, you might get tangled up, so you have to pay attention. You can get that D that you were using in your melody at times, if it's available. So the first chord, not available, because I'm playing it with my right hand. Now it is available. I'm going to pluck both those strings. And what I really like doing with this song in particular is that back and forth. I'm not going to attempt to do my 3-note arpeggio because that will be too much into my melody and will obscure the melody. So in this case, a lot of Dorian modes, you're just going to stick with D and A, doing something with it. A good example of using a rhythm is Como Poden. I've got my D and A, and even though I'm starting on the F, really this is a Dorian D song. Noticed at the end part, I drop down to the C and the G because that gives me a nice little emphasis. I kind of like to do that every once in a while, because if I stay on the D and A, I get that kind of bad harmony, but if I drop down for just that note, it sounds good. Now this song, the second part kind of goes into a different mode. So it kind of focuses more around the note C instead of D. So I drop my drone notes to C and G. Back to the A part, I'm going to move these 2 fingers up. And it's 12 o'clock. So I feel like maybe that was a lot to digest. I hope that you got something from it, or at least some ideas. Part of the reason I wanted to teach this class is I hope to maybe make some more educational videos on my YouTube channel. I've been saying that for years, so I don't know if it's going to happen. But this was kind of wanted to see what people were interested in. If you thought this was helpful, if you have other feedback, please, you can find me on Facebook. Elizabeth Browning Krause, my profile picture, I'm holding this instrument. It should be obvious who I am. And yeah, I love talking about psalteries. So do feel free to reach out